Good morning. It is now 9:15. We're going to call the AC Building Committee meeting to order on July 7th, 2023. On the call, on the phone, we have Sheila, recording secretary, in the conference room, Jason and Rodney from the Building Committee, Chuck and Mark from Colliers, and Sal from the BOE. At this time, I ask them to rise, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Item 2, approval of meeting minutes. Do we have meeting minutes to approve? We do not, right? Oh. We do not.
We do.
We do. Well, any changes that need to be done to the meeting minutes?
They were posted online. Guess I didn't grab them off my phone.
Okay. Do we need any changing in wording or?
No, I make a motion to accept them as written.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye. That was for 2 weeks ago? That was for
last week.
June 23rd.
We're going to play catch up on the other ones. Meeting minutes have been approved. I'd like to make a change on the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to move the project update from 4 to 3, and then move discussion and approval of construction management company back down to 4. So, seconded by Rodney. All in favor? Aye. All right, moving project update. Sal, can we have an update, please, on the project?
Okay. What we have today is Fitzhouse HVAC unit RTU replacements that went out to bid.
Well, hold on, go back. Let's talk about the...
You want the AC project?
I want the AC project first.
The AC projects are still in design with BL Industries, and that's our update. That's where they are.
Where are they?
They're getting to schematic design, and they're supposed to have that to us in the month of July. That was the update that we had the previous meeting. Jesse gave us the timeline for, by the time we picked the CM today, he should be able to give him the narrative, the conceptual narrative to estimate to. By the mid to end September, he should have schematic design.
Contract that.
Contract
that.
The SDs were
July. And then CDs were September.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're skipping to the development phase. Yeah.
Unless we change them and say we're in between, because there's going to be a couple of different options in the schematic design, from what I understand. Whether you're going to use DX units or you're going to go with a split system. So, on schematic design, you'll have a decision to make which way to proceed. You can have another, you can do a DD estimate in between. You can do one more clause, do a DD estimate.
Yeah, who's doing the costing on the SDs?
Our CM and your engineer. They'll both do it.
Okay.
They both owe you a.
That's so. You said July. They're going to get the SDs. August, you should have costing, right?
Say the third week of August, you're gonna have your.
And
it's one. We have to see how it goes, because you're going to select the CM today. That still has to hash out the contract. You got to bring it to the Board of Selectmen. So next Board of Selectmen is
next week.
No, it's not this Monday, it's the following Monday. From my memory, because of the.
So 17th, or is that?
I can look that up, I can look it up fairly easy.
17th, right?
I thought it was first and third, but.
So the
July
17th.
third, they moved it, but they bumped the third. Oh, the 10th.
Yeah. So the 17th, we're going from the BOS, get approval on that. So does that push us back, or they can work?
Well, it depends on who you're picking,
Yeah,
so
I honestly don't think that's an issue either for all three. I don't think they're gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not gonna. They may not present anything unless they have a contract, but they'll certainly.
Right.
I'm guessing.
We should
Start the ball rolling.
So this committee, by the end of August, first week of September, should see and have a better understanding what the plan is.
You should have a better understanding of, which direction you're going with the design.
I'm sorry, what date was that?
The last week of August, first week of September?
No, because that's when we're presented with cost, the options and costing. Then we need to hash out, and correct me if I'm wrong, we need to hash out what options we're gonna go with.
Mm-hmm.
And then the engineer will actually put that in.
So
I guess in a manner of speaking, yeah, we'll have.
You're gonna have a better understanding of the costs. That I'm personally afraid of the costs.
Yeah.
So, it'll be your next step might be, as a committee, might be closing the gap on funding. We got to chunk this out.
Which would be my next question, which I think the question at hand is, how much is the state giving us? Is it per school, or is it one big?
It's a grant at each school.
Okay.
Based on our reimbursement rate, based on the numbers that we presented.
So how much are we getting for?
You get this.
North Stratfield?
Here's the problem. It's just like any other construction project. It's reimbursement, so the town you only can spend the town's authorization.
Correct.
You can't spend the reimbursement on top of it. Right?
Is there money set aside already from the town to spend on the project?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was our pre-op like we usually do, so, because we weren't involved. Now, the town, was that global, or was that individual school?
It was one bond that had a schedule that said School A, and it's based on the DTC estimate.
How much is the town?
In total, it was about $22 million. It broke down. There you go. Fairfield Woods, $7.343 million.
7.34.
734.
734.
Okay.
North Stratfield 9.4.
Okay.
And Osborne 5.95.
Sorry, that was
5.9.
So North Stratfield 9.4 million, Osborne 5.95 million, Fairfield Woods 7.34 million.
Right. And you might end up
7.34, right?
7.34 or 7.734?
7.34.
Okay. My bad.
No problem.
So that's 22 million. Okay.
Right.
And that's the district's share. No.
That's the total for the project based on the DTC estimate and the conceptual, whatever you want, the pre-conceptual study. Yeah. I wouldn't even call it a conceptual, it's pre-conceptual. There was, it was an investigative report and probable opinion of cost. Wasn't even, it wasn't.
Who did the report?
DTC.
Oh, ETC.
DTC.
Oh, DTC.
So, those numbers are a year and a half old.
Wow.
Well, everything moves slow. Yeah, it's the same thing that always happens. So
Was there an escalation cost associated with that?
I don't know what, offhand, I don't know what date they put it to, but let's say no.
And this is all contingent on that December 2024 deadline.
The deadline's a separate issue. I think we need to segregate that as a separate issue. You're going to home down into a design, then home down into a cost. As a committee, you're either matching those numbers, you're either working within those numbers. You have a couple of possibilities. We're good on funding. Once we get to schematic or even DD, we're within those numbers that we just read off. You keep moving. You could have the problem that you're within the total costs. You have to stop at Board of Finance and say, yeah, we're just juggle the numbers for us. Yeah. Or you could be in the bad spot of saying, gee whiz, we're off by $1 million on each project and asking for more money, which would be the whole Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance. RTM.
What is your recalculation?
24.01.
Well, is that escalating?
At approximately 6% a year. So I figured a year. Below $2 million over. Well, I mean, that's don't take that gospel.
Correct.
That's
right.
That's rough estimate.
Right.
And are these.
Yeah.
Right. And on top of that, just remember, there is also the component for the security vestibule, which is a separate pot of money, roughly $500,000 to $600,000
Each school.
I had given you that number here, but it's not on that number. So that's a whole nother. We haven't even touched that.
And
the architect's not working on it.
Where's that money coming from?
Is that also due 2024?
No, it's not. It's in your hands.
Yes.
It's funded, but we don't have the architect owes us an ad service on that, because when we BL owes ad service, your owner rep will say whether we'll beat them up, we'll do whatever it is that we normally do. We'll filter and make sure that it's an appropriate thing, and that's yet another OSCGNR application for me and colleagues to do. Separate review, and it can run on a separate timeline. There's when you get a school construction grant, there's no deadline. But the right time to do it is while we're doing all this other work. As far as the deadline, my personal opinion is, and I understand there was a long discussion at the last meeting that I couldn't be at, as to the number of how high you have to jump for for the commissioner to say, I'm going to give you. Yeah. They're going to make you, sing the Star Spangled Banner on one foot, or we just solicit for special legislation and just get the date changed. Or solicit to have the enabling statute change, because it's in the enabling statute. I had a call yesterday from a town manager from another town, smaller town, that's going for all this, and it was the same. He's commiserating the same thing. It's like it's a ridiculous deadline.
So to piggyback off that, Jen Leeper gave me a call before, Representative Leeper.
Yep.
State Rep Leeper called me before July 4th. We talked for about 20 minutes. She said she talked to the commissioner, stated her concern. The commissioner said we are seeing that, obviously, with the supply chain. As long as we follow the proper guidelines, which we're doing, we have the building committee, we're doing this, we're moving forward, and we present them proof that, hey, a switch is like a year out or whatever. They don't see it being a problem to offer an extension.
Right.
That being said, we can say that all we want. I still feel that deadline is the deadline, right? We don't have...
The deadline's a deadline until it's not anymore.
Until it's not.
Right, so you're gonna move forward, so right now, the superintendent works, the commissioner says, we wish, we're seeing supply, 12 months on switchgear. We'd like an extension of 10 months. I didn't know he came up with that on his own, I would have said 12, but anyway, just to round it off, right? Regardless, I think we can go through, once we're at the point that we're close to bid documents, and we have a CM on board, and we can actually pull it and go to the switchgear company and get in writing, we're running 52 weeks, and we're running 35 weeks, we're running blah, 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 and right off, we get something that says 52 weeks, and we're due to do a bid from, mid-November, let's say at best, and we're going to, before Christmas, so, you're a year out, you're awarding these things in January, it's already blown. So what are they going to do? Say no? And if they do say no, the separate thing is we call up Representative Lee and say we'd like special legislation because it takes as long as it takes. I don't know. Yeah.
We want to get them now before they go back in the sessions.
So the reason I don't know is because usually special legislation for school construction projects goes with the bonding authorization, which is typically March, April, if I remember. Usually is when it comes out.
Right.
This one is not school construction authorization. It's HVAC air quality. It's like another pot of money. I don't know when they work on that.
So, okay. I want to go backwards for a second, the vestibules. You say it's a separate item, obviously. That's already been bonded too? There's money set aside from the state and everything else?
Not from the state, from the town.
From the town.
You said about 500 grand a piece.
Yeah, I forgot the exact.
And when were those estimates down?
That was done, Silver Touchelli did that for us. And that was done, when did we just do the last town on recurring? Back in...
It's not a year and a half, is it?
No, it's not a year and a half. It was just this past cycle. It was the beginning of this year. Last fall is when they did the estimate.
2022. All right, and then
Who's going to do the, EL's going to do the final design?
BL is our engineers and architects. That's the selected firm. We're with them for these 3 projects. There's 4 more projects in the waterfall afterwards. So if we win like the next project is Tomlinson, we will apply for a grant. If we win a grant, you guys would be assigned that, the building committee would get that in their workload.
And then the CM that's selected today will also handle the vestibule too?
Yes, we would do an ad service with them.
Okay. So it's a separate entity, but it still falls under our...
Right, so, we've selected an architect engineer for the program, which is 7, maybe 9 buildings.
Oh, so
depending on funding.
So BL is on board for all the schools for this AC program.
That was their selection, and unless they underperform, we have a problem. We don't have to stay with them forever, but we can keep adding services to them because of the way we bid it. We're saying you could end up doing all of these, and we're meeting the solicitation requirements and all that.
That's not so for the GC.
It is also for the CM. So we have it. It's also for these guys. So we have a team that's moving forward, and it's not like we're gonna all this hand wrangling we're doing now. We shouldn't have to do it on the next one. All we should be doing is about the negotiation on the price that's being put forward. It's either right or it's wrong. They're performing well or they're not. and yeah, and I don't foresee any of these team members.
No, they're all quality.
They're all good companies, and I can't imagine them falling into the dark pit of not.
Except for one.
Any other questions?
Well, you can't get into personalities.
Oh, you can't? That's not allowed?
Because that you would be sitting there.
All right. Excuse me.
Not you, him. Not you, him. Sorry. Any other questions, Paul? Okay. We're good. All right.
So the other part that I was giving you, we did, there is a fourth project, which is Fairfield.
We'll get to that after.
Oh, you got that as a separate item?
It's on a separate item.
Okay.
All right, project update done. Discussion approval construction management company. I'd like to have a motion over this so that we can discuss and then vote on the construction management company.
Discuss. Throw it in there, Dennis.
Okay.
Right?
I thought, I wasn't sure.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You only need a motion. All right, I'll make a, let's,
Well, just in case.
I'll make a motion to, open up discussion on the construction management company.
Okay.
And then followed by the approval.
By the approval. I second. All in favor? Aye. All right. I'll start opening this. We got the most recent update. I will just say this, I never worked with Downside App, and I made that clear. I worked with Gilbane the last two building committees. I know their knowledge of the local town is important. Working with them for the past, 10 plus years, right? Even in normal times and during COVID, to me, they move well. Their presentation was what I liked, and I know it's just the concept is they weren't looking to use any classroom swing spaces except at the middle school. So that kind of, to me, separated them. So, I'm comfortable with whichever, but I'll lean more towards Gilbane.
Huh? I will say that all three companies are more than qualified to handle this. I was not particularly impressed with Bismarck's proposal and/or interview. They left a lot of options open, which is not something we need at this point. Gilbane and Downs are on equal footing as far as I'm concerned. I didn't work with them in the school in Fairfield. That's probably the only differentiator besides cost. We're going to need to be cost conscious on this. Downs 1.55. Just their fee is 1.5. 1.5. Gilbane's is at 2.25. Which is, depending on how they manage that, it's substantial increase. So I think that needs to be weighed. We don't have unlimited funds. So that's my opinion.
Okay. Input from Colliers, since you're the owner's rep. Your opinion?
Yeah, so obviously we had our interviews last week. Just for record, we were directed to request the best and final from Downs and Gilbane, given the interviews. We did request those and received those last Wednesday by noon. And we did announce, I get your email, but I think I might have the wrong email. So we did an analysis and did a synopsis distributed to the committee. And compared the options. So Downs, again, just for the record for those that are listening, they both firms had their original proposal. Downs came back with 3 additional options to consider. There's their option 2 is a phased renovation approach from May of 24 through September of 25.
that was somewhat similar in philosophy and just the general philosophy of the phasing as Gilbane's original proposal. Not exactly the same, but in that option, their fee didn't include the months of April and May for general conditions, which to me was concerned because the people aren't just going to go away and then come back for 2 months. We wouldn't typically see that. So in our analysis, we added their 2 months back in at the amount of $87,416. That's their average GCs on their option 2. We put it back in there because we just don't think they're not just going to move off the site and come back and go somewhere and do something else. So we thought that was a fair and reasonable adjustment to their option 2. Option 3 was to address a potential delay in the switchgear, November 23 to September 24, and then there was from a June 25 to September 25 period. That was very unique. Gilbane didn't have a comparable. And then downside one, an option for, again, and this is based upon our discussion in the interviews of only performing work during the summer and over breaks, which obviously that would extend it out. They have it out to October 2026, which I don't think is really an option for us based upon our discussions. But they provided those additional 3, which in fairness to them, I think was a thorough way of providing a fee. And I think they covered all the bases based upon our discussion. They obviously listened to what we said and what your concerns were for that. So we put that in our analysis. Gilbane did revise their original fee. They slightly reduced some of their GCs and their fee. The original fee percentage was 2.75% on that originally. And they came down at 2.25% for their fee with some tweaks to their general conditions. Both total pre-construction fees were the same. They didn't modify those for that. But Gilbane did provide an option for showing a substantial completion of December of 2024 per the RFP for that. So Gilbane has ultimately given us 2 revised proposals, and Downs has a total of 4 different options. In our analysis, we really looked at 2 of the options. One is the December 24 completion, again, per the RFP. So when we compared that, what we did here is we understand we had a copy of the budget prepared. I think it might have been prepared by Gilbane as a preliminary estimate for these projects. What we did is we took the trade costs, not the total construction, the trade costs that we go out to bid that both firms theoretically will add their general conditions percentages on top of at the bottom of the GMP.
Did they each supply a trade cost?
They did not. They just basically provided the general conditions.
So where did you get your trade costs from?
So there's an estimate that we have that was published in our, I think it was in our RFP or the CMRFP, a budget that Gilbane prepared last fall, and we distributed that. We used the trade costs in that, Rodney, just as a straight line comparison to compare apples to apples. Regardless if that trade cost is valid or escalated, we applied it to their proposals equally in order to figure out, okay, when we look at the fee, what is the fee? What's the delta in dollars in the fee, not just a percentage, but what would that dollar be? And that was, to us, the fairest way with the best information we have at hand to use that. And the estimated trade cost for all 3 was $17,182,192, and that's in that spreadsheet we distributed across the board.
Forgot it, but I think the fairer way would have been taking the state prevailing wage rates.
That's what these are based upon. It's based upon prevailing wage for that. It has to be, because over $1 million, it has to be prevailing wage. So that would assume a prevailing wage rate. But even if it was, say, higher, say, $21 million,
and that was done last fall, and the PW rates came out again in April. So anyway,
it's still apples to apples with the information we have. It's going to go up the same for both. We're using the same number for both, which we believe is the fairest way to do it, because again, that's going to be open bid, lowest qualified responsible bidder for that.
Educate me on something. Everyone's experience here. We have a deadline for December. We know there's going to be delays in whatever equipment and parts and stuff like that.
We're
Assuming there's a delay. Assuming all normal, can this project be completed in December 2024?
It'd be a push if your thing is normal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I agree with it. It's going to be very difficult for either or all three of them to get this project done by December 31st, 2024. Not saying that it can't do it. I mean, they both have options on how to get it done, but it's still going to be a push.
Well, the other, overall, the grant program is $150 million, and $50 million was for previously done projects. So $100 million of government money is pumped into the construction economy with the same deadlines. So it's not just so there's no normal. You're right off the bat that the normal practice is the market's being skewed, just economics 101.
But
even if you just had one school, we're going to add AC, and I'll take the biggest one, Woods. And we narrow it down, and we have one summer to blast this out. You're paying premium because you're working. Second, 2 shifts, weekends, the whole thing, and you have to bring the resources. We're doing that 3 times on the backdrop of a whole bunch of other people,
Doing the same thing.
Towns doing the same thing. And you only can reach so far. Really tri-state area to get the folks.
The labor is going to be the challenge,
Without question.
and not even accounting for other major capital projects. The current priority list is $1 billion. That doesn't include this. It's the largest priority list we've seen. So that kind of is part of that being a challenge of getting enough train contractors.
So at the end of the day, that 2 point whatever against the 1.5 plays a huge role on completion of this project for December. The cost just on labor and all those fees, assuming will be done by December. We have to assume because that's our deadline. That's what's on the papers. That's what's been told to all these guys.
So I'll give you the direct comparison on it. So just looking, so again, assuming trade cost is the same, the bids come in the same value, we apply their markups, and this is a simplified version. GMP is a little bit more complicated, but we're using the information we have to date. For option 1 in December 24, the fee, the dollar value fee for Downs would be $283,000 for the fee. And again, this is just fee alone. This is in GCs, where Kilbane's is calculated to be $419,000.
Just on fees.
Just on fee.
Again, you're talking almost $200,000.
So the fee percentage, just so we understand the calculation, we give you a spreadsheet, it's the fee percentage multiplied, taking the sum of pre-construction fee, which we can argue if we take it out, with in the general conditions, and the trade costs. You take the trade costs plus general conditions plus a pre-con, multiplied by that percentage of the fee. That's how we came up with our numbers. Very, very simple calculation. But again, trying to compare apples to apples.
It's tough. It's
Each GMP is a little slightly different, right? Everybody crafts a little bit different, but for the sake of our discussion, that's an apples comparison. Now, on the option 1, just staying with the December 1st option, the general conditions for Downs, option 1. Yeah. So the total of the fee plus the CM, the pre-construction, and the general conditions is $1,964,000. So just under $2 million for Downs, compared to Gilbane's. Their total is $1,848,000 for that. So it's about $117,000 less in their total fee for Gilbane on the December 24 option. Again, compares as best we can 1-to-1 same trade costs for that. Their fees higher, but their general conditions are lower by about $223,000. So there's some that are higher and some that are lower, depending on what you look at. I mean, they're up by $30,000 on pre-con, so I don't think we need to dig into that too. Now, that's the December 24 option. Comparing the two options that we felt were probably the closest was this option 2 of completion in basically the spring of 2025. Downs has it in September 25. Gilbane thinks February 2025 through substantial completion. They're not exactly the same, but they're as close as we can get, comparatively speaking. So again, trade costs are being the same on it. And again, Downs, just again, I want to clarify, they what they submitted, they omitted the months of April and May. In our opinion, and Mark, some of you, I don't think they're just not going to bill for April and May. You know, they're not going to demobilize and come back 2 months later and say, oh, we're not going to charge you the $85,000 per month or $87,000. I just don't see that occurring. I don't think it's fair to not include that. So we added those 2 months back in, which added back in 88,000 times 2, so $100-something thousand. So comparing these apples to apples, the fee would be for Downs $283,000 in that option. Gilbane's is $426,000. So there's still the percentage is the delta in this on it, and that's probably one of the bigger deltas. The general conditions, looking at general conditions for those options, Downs was $1,574,000. Gilbane is $1,626,000. They're not that far off in their general conditions. They're pretty darn close on that one. For that, 53,000 was the delta. So, again, the number in totality in those options, Gilbane's higher by about 165,000 when you add it all up. At the end of the day. And again, is it a perfect comparison? No, but it's the closest one we can get outside of that December 24 comparison. So, again, we're talking a lot of different scenarios with our schedule. We'll compare them as best we can. Apples to apples, you're about, again, we're saying 165,000 off. So I guess the question is, is that value there for the town, considering what you've talked about already?
What's the town's opinion?
Well, that's across 3 projects. You're looking at $55,000 delta on each one of the projects. In total, looking at a $9 million project, which is a very small number. And it's hard to comment on it if you're not looking at. I mean, the December 24, the option 1, they're both looking at the same thing, and you can't argue it. And as you're saying, that's your mission. So, do you want something else to be your criteria?
Again,
I mean, or and you can say it's not realistic, and I need a different criteria. So
my question is this, and this is where I need some education. So I want to use December as that deadline, right? So we pull ahead. We're missing a switch here and there, right? Which everyone is telling me it's delayed. Does that mean technically the project is not completion to meet the state deadline is 1? And 2, does that, in my layman's terms, does that mean whatever we put up there can't run how it's supposed to run, and we're gonna have problems because we're rigging it.
Here's the interesting part of that. The requirement of the grant is that the project is accepted by the end of December 2024.
Accepted by Board of Ed.
Accepted by Board of Ed. So, do you get an acceptance with an MOU that you have to tweak everything, or you're gonna double the warranty?
You have to be substantial by 2024 and everything go perfectly in order for Board of Ed to accept that.
Exactly.
That's the reality of that.
That's the reality of that. I mean, getting to board is there a long memory? I mean, acceptance of Burr Elementary didn't happen for onwards of 3+ years.
They have it within 1 year.
Because it wasn't running correctly?
We had that problem at Holland Hill, and we had that problem not as much, just delayed at Mill Hill. So I hear what you're saying.
Right, but the difference being with Burr, it was a contentious thing, where with Holland Hill, it was a
Contentious.
yeah, it wasn't contentious at all. I mean, it was like, yeah, we have a problem, we're gonna fix it. Stand by, we'll be back. The building committee, you guys worked to solve the issue and move forward.
Problem with the air conditioning unit.
The difference 20+ years ago was they said we did what we're supposed to do. We want to stop it.
Ended up
What
being
was the contentious one? What happened?
20 years.
Oh,
Oh,
20 years ago.
20 years ago is yesterday. In terms of these things, because when I went to go replace the roof, we just built that. How are we replacing the roof?
Well, let's go by the experience with Holland Hill, because we're talking HVAC during a time, right? When we're asking, the problem was between the vendor, Gilbane, and the town as far as training and not getting that number correct, and then they have to come out a whole bunch of times to train or somebody. Had to come up a whole bunch of times and tweak it, and then everything was
There
new.
was an issue with it was a train unit.
That was a finicky with train controls.
Yeah, and the there's a lot there, but the
And then
Gilbane worked to solve the problem. The building committee worked to solve the problem. We, of course, were working to make sure that we did it. We learned a lot, in my tenure here, as far as interfacing with building committees and making sure that Fairfield Public Schools, our maintenance department, gets what we need out of a project, not only in terms of, we gave you the equipment, but also the transfer of knowledge and training and all that. With Burr, it was just like, there's this wonderful thing that was overplumbed. It's the most overplumbed building that you can imagine. It's very complicated. They just handed it to guys that have buildings that had exhaust fans.
well, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So
And things didn't work out well.
going back to the difference, I saw you plugging away.
Yeah, it's $195,000 for option 2. It was $283 for Downs. Their fee.
Yeah, so the fee, the way we calculate the 2 additional months, we had about $283,000 for them.
And we $426 for Gilbane.
That is correct, so there's a delta of $144,000.
I got a delta of $195,000. It's 1.74574 for Downs, 1.626 for Gilbane, correct?
We're talking general conditions
Total.
Oh, for the
No, I'm sorry. Total, I got 1.857 for Downs, and
Let me give you that total. I have an Excel, right? The total for Downs, but their markups, $1,992,000.
Say that again,
Probably my fat fingers.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to point this one.
No, go away.
What was the number, Chuck?
There, for this is option 2.
I still get, what did you have for their, labor?
So their general conditions,
Or general conditions?
okay, we added,
I know that. What was the total?
$1,573,495.
Wait, 1,573,000? Oh, I have that number.
I should be on the sheet that you have printed out there.
So, 283, right?
Yep, 1, 2, 3. It's got the Excel folder.
No, I get 180, I get 1.857. 283 plus,
365, right? 283, 365.
yeah, I just rounded.
Yeah, okay.
283,000 plus 1.574.
And then you have to add in 135,000 for the pre-con.
You didn't say that before.
You didn't say that before.
The total of their expenses is their base, the pre-con, and the general conditions.
Okay. What about Gilbane?
Gilbane's for their comparable is $2,157,457.
Yeah, don't give us all the information.
Kind of work with Down before.
School system, no. The town? I don't recall hearing that.
I don't know, I know the school no, and I'm not sure about it.
And you know, it's,
They've done work in town, I'm sure.
I'm sure I'm sure they've done work, but, you know, I mean, the major projects that aren't Board of Ed projects that I know about were the Smith Richardson, the pavilion.
Is that Down?
That was not that. Geez, what other big projects are there on the town side that were like that?
We won't bring about the pavilion.
Yeah.
Penfield is living up this line.
The first go around? First go around, that was.
No, now,
Oh, they're doing it now?
which is doing the repairs.
So we're still looking at about estimated 195,000 difference.
For option 2, there's
No, you gotta take
165,000 for the option 2. Again, supposed to be 165,000 no problem. There's it.
Yeah, it's, if I may, is there something that you can point to for that delta? That
The majority
they're carrying that,
The majority of that
Down, is
thousand,
it?
the majority of that, 142 of that, well, 142,000 of that is purely fee. Out of the 165. The GCs are close in that option. They're only 53,000 apart in these options.
They're real close.
They're real close in the general conditions. It's really the same. The fee is really the delta here.
Yep. Well, that goes without saying. It's 2.25 versus 1.
You know, if you were to go that, I would recommend asking for 2.1. If you were to go that.
right, that's where I'm driving on this. Is the thing that's, and it's pretty readily definable, and is it something that you can argue with if you want to go with, because if you're saying, gee, what's the qualifications, I look at the qualifications on paper,
They're neck and neck. I mean, they're
neck and neck.
They're both.
I know one company, I don't know the other.
Well, that's
Is
that worth $150,000?
exactly, but, you know, if
Try to
it's,
justify that to the boards. Not that you have to, right now, but if we go back to the boards for additional funds,
no,
try to justify.
you could get an argument on everything.
No, I understand that, but,
Yeah.
you know, if we're saying that both firms are equal, then why do we spend?
But did you actually do a score on that? That is,
Right,
at
it is, at the beginning.
Mine was
Here's the thing.
Right.
If we go in front of the board,
Wasn't equal.
I think it's easier that I can justify the 150,000 or 170,000 difference because of relation to what they did in the past. And I think that is enough. I think anything higher, 500,000 plus, you have a very difficult time to do that. I can't see myself going in front of the board saying, oh, we hired them because for 500,000 more because of this, and this. I think
If you get down to 2.1, you're down 137,000.
So here's the thing though, so if we choose if we go by what Colliers is recommending, if we choose Gilbane,
I didn't hear them recommend.
We didn't recommend anything.
I mean,
We're just telling you the facts of the comparison.
if can you go back to Gilbane and say you can drop the,
You can negotiate. This is a professional service. You're allowed to negotiate it,
and if they say no, we can't do it, then
that will comes back to you and you make a decision from there.
right.
If you say it's subject to them going to 2.1, if not, then you go to Towns and that's it.
Well, if they say no, then we can still move ahead.
Correct.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
I'm either way. I don't even know the board's.
I'm sorry, Mike. Hey.
All right. We'll be asking for a hell of a lot more than $100,000.
I just need you for 10 seconds.
Awesome.
Whoever's on the phone, please mute.
It would be terrible if that's the only thing you went back for. It would be terrible if you went to the boards and that was all. The only thing that you were asking for was dealt out.
So I'm not.
It's
$150,000. I mean, if everyone is happy with Gilbane's work, I don't have any substantial objections other than the cost.
If we go on the record here, Colliers saying going back.
We're on the record, by the way.
Right. With Colliers going back to negotiate that fee to 2.1. If they agree, I say we go with Gilbane. If they balk, they should go right for down.
But what we're doing is we're kicking the can down the road. What I would recommend is either approving Downs or Gilbane now and going back to them saying, listen, got conditional approval based on, or not, I don't know how you word that.
I mean, it is conditional approval based on renegotiation of what your service fee is going to be.
Regardless, if I can point out, regardless, say it was mathematical and there was nothing to debate about. It was clearly one or the other. That approval is still subject to negotiation because it's not done until the contract is negotiated and signed. So I don't know if that helps you at all.
I would
no.
So you're not doing anything that's not normally done.
It's not binding and
Correct. Yeah, exactly. It's a non-binding decision, right? Because you still have to do the negotiation regardless.
My thought is just based on the experience I've had with the school and what I've had, is I would go with Gilbane, and then obviously the rest takes care of itself on the back. Nothing against Downs or Bismarck, whoever bid. I think it's exactly equal, but I think the relationship that they had the last three projects, right? They did Riverfield too, Riverfield, Holland Hill, and Mill Hill.
Or they did Ludlow High School.
So four. Their true understanding of what's going on in the town, how to work it, and the timelines ahead. I know with Mill Hill, nothing but deadlines and timelines. They pulled it off, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And that's my,
And it's their same, it is, I believe it's their same team as well
with Mark
Rob Kowal and Mark,
and
which, and
They're putting the familiar faces forward.
so they get it. They know the ins and outs.
and Mark is still in Fairfield.
And he's in Fairfield, correct.
You know, and that, yeah, there's a value to that.
Correct. Again, not saying anything wrong with down on this matter, but just my
They're
familiarity.
good outfit, they can definitely do that.
Correct.
That's a big 1%. 0.1% off budget. So what that mean?
Okay. So we okay to say, we can award it to Gilbane?
But you have to make a motion.
Want to make sure we're okay. So,
Me too.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that the building committee approves Gilbane to be the construction management company for the AC project for the town of Fairfield.
So,
Second, all in favor? Aye? Abstain?
Aye.
Thanks. I'm like, oh, abstain, objected, okay.
I should have stayed.
You know what? I've only saw that once. I saw that on the Stratfield Building Committee. There was a long-running dispute about paying a bill, and everybody abstained except one person. And that's how it, out of 9 people, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was,
All right, so,
I don't know how we got through. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No.
So we're good. All right, so that's been approved. All right, item 5, approval of contractor fifth house RTU replacement, Mr. Sal.
okay, so, that's what I started before. We bid out the RTU replacement on Fitz House, 3 large units. We got 2 bids. We did a scope review. The architect, purchasing department, and myself did a scope review with these companies. The low bidders saved more, had all the parts, had all the information. There was no negatives to hold them up. The other bidder was somebody I had not heard of before, but they also seemed to have everything, but they were basically $100,000 higher. The bid came in. I do have to say it's slightly over the funding that we have. We have identified operating expenses to close that gap and make sure that there's a contingency. So the recommendation is to award to Save More Heating and Cooling. Their contract was, their proposal was $1,080,000, if I remember correctly.
80,000?
80,000. And they have
Save More Heating and Cooling?
yes. And they're also we've had them. They're actually just wrapping up on an air conditioning project in the cafeteria ward. So it's I guess they like the ward. It's a long lead item. It has about a 33 to 35 week lead time for the train units. So, giving everything approval today would be great. We can get it on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen in a couple of weeks, get them committed so they can get their shop approval and get it ordered, and it'll be ready for us next summer. There's really no other work to do before the end of the school year. It's not like it's not a complicated project.
It's just replacing the unit?
They're big units. It's also access platforming that's not there.
Yeah.
There's structural stick. It's a nice little. It has some heft to it, but
What's the completion plan for you guys on this
it'll be completed next summer.
next summer?
It's one of those things. That's the only avenue for it. All the reconnections, not. It's disconnect.
Same ductwork and
Yeah, there's some transitions, structural steel, we got months and months and months to make sure it all gets done. And,
You're handling all the steel.
they got the steel, the electrician, the plumber, the lightning protection guy, all that good stuff. Lightning protection. Our only building with lightning protection is Ward High School. Why? We have no clue. It's not that tall.
So we're just approving the contract you guys already selected.
The contractor that we're recommending the selection of Save More Mechanical.
Are you taking the add-on for the commissioner assistant?
We are still discussing that, but we have funded, there's an ad alternate, $9,900 if we do commissioning of the system. We're just taught because it's mechanical system, is it worth the money?
Why wouldn't you do commissioning?
I see no reason not to.
Yeah.
But
I mean, why would that even be an add-on?
it's a discussion, it's a specific one because we don't have a commissioning agent lined up for it.
No.
So we just threw it in case, but
Is Colliers the owner's rep on this too? Or is it just?
Yeah.
Well, they will be because it's part of our.
Right, that's what because this,
yeah, it's basically financial. You know, they're doing the trial.
Yeah, we can, it says, I don't recall seeing it in the RFP, not to say we can't do it.
Yeah.
Right, okay. All right, so I make a motion to approve Save More Mechanical as the contract for a Fitz House RTU replacement.
For $1,000,008.
Is that what it is, 1,000,008?
Yeah, and you might as well say you also approve the ad alternate if accepted of $9,900.
And approve the ad alternate for $990.
$9,900.
$9,900.
For that one, yeah, with the air conditioning too.
Well, that's theirs to provide assistance during. It's still got to go hire the commissioning agent.
So do I have a second on that? All in favor? Aye. It's been approved. New business. Let's, moving forward, let's make sure that all three building committee members, Nick and Sheila, who's our recording secretary, and Nick Aces from the Board of Ed Rep, are added onto all future emails for meetings and material.
I know they did this purposely.
Because that's okay, we got you.
Right, you're, I have Bandu 76 out there, right? That's, okay. Because that's what you have too, right?
Yeah.
That's both from one of his.
That's the old one? That's the one I have.
Well, I keep getting your emails.
Well, there you go. It's purpose.
That's what I said, but what's your current one there, right?
RBANDU 1993 @gmail.com.
You're right. They're purposely leaving you off. They're leaving you off. He's got my email. You know?
Take a motion to adjourn meeting.
Second. So we're making a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. Have a good day. Thank you.